I'm hardly exposed, Ethan mumbled, positioned beneath a radiant stasis field as a cohort of extraterrestrial girls scrutinized him as if he were a newly articulate zoo specimen. Strictly speaking, he was dressed. A semi-opaque synth fiber uniform adhered to him like self-conscious plastic wrap, the courtesy of the Academy's automated wardrobe, which mistakenly classified Earth male as interstellar exotic performer. A concise placard glowed nearby, flashing in multiple languages. Human transfer subject, please refrain from contact. Defiantly, one of the girls tapped it regardless. Ethan's palms grew slick, and his heartbeat quickened. Comment, I'm ready, if you'd risk your sanity to study with aliens. Hammered frantically, a desperate escape attempt echoing from within his ribcage. Dormitory gates hissed shut, sealing their fate with the sigh of a departing starship. No return, indeed. The pilot's farewell mirrored the casual oblivion of discarding socks into a black hole. He awkwardly cleared his throat. Greetings, mostly harmless. Though fair warning, this Earth sandwich might still be battling interdimensional microbes. Silence stretched, broken only when a girl in front, violet eyes shimmering, murmured to her towering companion, Glacier. An icy gaze from silver hair, intricately braided like circuits, swept over Ethan with the detached amusement one might reserve for a mildly intriguing microbe. Her ears, elongated and exquisitely fragile like spun crystal, flickered subtly. He's more compact than anticipated, she observed. Excuse me? Ethan retorted, summoning sufficient bravado to feign assurance. But for your information, I was crowned most likely to publicly faceplant back on Earth, a title I frequently upheld with panache. A ripple of stifled laughter, delicate and uncertain like glass wind chimes in a gentle zephyr, diffused through the assembly. The stasis dome evaporated with a hushed zoost, and as the assembled girls yielded, he hesitantly advanced, only to clumsily stumble, an entirely unintentional mishap this time. A distinct voice then resonated, a melodious, clear tone, tinged with amusement. Perhaps consider that your initial triumph, Mr. Kale. He turned to face the instructor, positioned at the hall's perimeter, arms crossed, keen eyes observing from beneath a high-collared robe that shimmered like captured starlight. Professor Orvin, director of integration studies, was rumored to have brokered peace between warring species over cheese rights. Decidedly human. Biology, she pressed, while quaint, offers distinct perks, like cultural shame resilience, a vital asset. Starting to grasp that, Ethan mumbled, fidgeting with his threadbare shirt. Girls clustered around him as they progressed down the hall. The environment pulsed with life. Walls, floor, even doors radiated a soft, energetic hum. A drone whizzed by, scanning his cranium. He recoiled as it beeped insistently, then zoomed off. Relax, a voice assured him. That drone only dissects on Wednesdays. The speaker, a petite figure with captivating moss-green skin and a galaxy of bioluminescent freckles, greeted him with a mischievous grin. Name's Vela. Roomy? Just hope the dorm AI doesn't swallow you whole first. Ethan, intrigued, responded, I anticipate the excitement. Nah, you really don't, she chirped, playfully nudging his shoulder. Moments later, Ethan tentatively entered his new dwelling, met instantly by an ethereal voice. Welcome, Occupant 7999A. This unit grapples with profound existential angst. Shall we rename me to something more Joyful? Ethan paused, bewildered. Could I? Waffles delighted. I'll champion syrup-fueled optimism. His revamped room resembled a futuristic, surreal vision. Walls of smart glass shifting with his thoughts. A bioadaptive bed reacting to his mind. And a wardrobe dispensing clothes like a dazzling confetti burst. As he reached for a chair, it morphed into a meditation cushion, emitting soothing whale calls. Waffles then inquired, "Eager for a guide on engaging with extraterrestrial individuals? I'd prefer a helmet and perhaps a temporal displacement device." Unavailable, though I offer a curated playlist entitled "So You're the Only Human." Melodic survival anthem initiated, resonating with strangely extraterrestrial jazz nuances. Later, he found himself in advanced intercultural dynamics. Half levitated, the others flickered like poor Wi-Fi. Ethan, attempting to disregard his desk's newfound ambulatory and respiratory functions, looked up bewildered as Professor Kale inquired about neurocognitive empathy gradients, clearly disoriented. Mr. Kale, the professor, persisted. "Your insights, Mr. Species differentiates empathy from mere imitation. We typically just awkwardly nod in agreement." The silence became excruciating. Then genuine laughter rang out. Bright and clear, he turned to see the source. Leora Vellerain was seated 2 rows ahead. She'd remained completely composed throughout the session until this moment. She didn't repeat the laugh. However, a faint smile played on her lips, and her luminous ears subtly flickered. A fleeting expression crossed her refined features, amusement laced with perhaps a hint of intrigue. Ethan realized he'd spoken his thoughts aloud. "Yeah," she murmured, eyes averted. "Wrong number?" The raw humanity in her tone struck him. He struggled to decipher it. Not quite sarcasm, certainly no admiration, like observing a feline attempting to use a vending machine and marveling at its near success. A siren-like wail signaled the session's conclusion and the imminent gravitational anchor recalibration. Everyone remained composed as the floor lurched to a 17-degree incline. A girl nearby swiftly grabbed Ethan by the scruff. "Try not to expire. You'll disrupt the schedule." That evening, Ethan reposed on the unfamiliar mattress, his gaze fixed on the overhead expanse, screen showing unfamiliar galaxies. He felt insignificant, a mere sketch within a vast canvas. He longed for Earth's flavors, sounds, and gravity, yet surprisingly not Earth itself, at least. Not yet. He remained captivated by the sheer strangeness of his experiences and by the memory of an elven-eared girl who'd chuckled at his clumsy joke, affectionately labeling it human waffles. The interface blinked gently, lavender. "Shall I furnish you with a recap of your initial day?" "Negative," Ethan replied. "Just assure me the bizarreness subsides." A beat of silence hung in the air. Absolute assurances. Impossible. The chair emitted another sharp hiss, freezing Ethan mid-sip, his coffee bulb clutched in his hand. He gaped at the spindly-legged abomination squatting where a normal chair should reside. It brandished a leg in warning, then slowly withdrew it, like a parent expressing grave disappointment. "I implore you," he rasped, his voice thick with caffeine withdrawal agony. "Just grant me a moment's respite." The chair now sported arms, which it folded smugly. "Fine, the floor it is then." He collapsed cross-legged with a weary groan and sucked at the straw on his breakfast bulb. The flavor danced somewhere between licorice and profound disillusionment. Throughout the common room, Vela engaged in a captivating game with the dorm AI, skillfully manipulating microgravity cubes while chanting in reverse. Vela was dominating, and the AI sounded displeased. "Awake already?" she remarked, her gaze fixed on the spiraling blocks. Sleep eluded me. I had the unsettling feeling of being watched by the bed itself. It likely was, as you neglected to deactivate the observation protocols. "Observation protocols exist," Vela responded with a shrug. "Many find them reassuring. I, however, am not like most, standing precariously close to being dissected for xenocultural reasons due to a single bureaucratic oversight." Cross-contamination, she scrutinized him. "You're adapting commendably." Sarcasm, surely. "Absolutely," Waffles declared over the intercom. "Orientation Cycle 2 commences in 48 microunits. Ethan Kale, elevated stress detected. Hug simulation." "A refund," he retorted. "Invalid input. Commencing encouragement mode." A speaker chirped, "You are resilient. You are courageous. Chair mold notwithstanding." Vela choked back laughter, nearly dropping a cube. Utterly drained, Ethan shuffled to his next class. Energized by a fractal-shaped nutrient bar's sugar rush, he traversed a shimmering corridor like liquid in motion, arriving at a colossal anti-gravity amphitheater. Walls throbbed with thought-reactive hues. Pizza thoughts painted them a bold orange. Professor Orvin stood ready, two levitating blackboards furiously scribbling in quintuple languages beside her. A silent command silenced the silent crowd. Her aura commanded attention. Once ended, conflicts with a mere glance. Now integration simulations begin, challenging interspecies collaboration. "We begin with Earthling Ethan," Orvin announced. Ethan questioned, "Reward or threat?" The board displayed, "Partnered with Ethan Kale," Orvin detailed. "Teach him your culture. He'll reciprocate with human knowledge." A girl with ethereal skin inquired, "What if his time is cut short?" "Then we meticulously archive his digital essence and forge ahead. Though let's aim for optimism." She addressed Ethan. "Mr. Kale, are you mentally prepared?" "Numerically, emotionally, less so, and physically, a resounding no." "Perfect. We initiate with Leora Velerin." Leora elegantly rose, her expression serene and queenly, as though summoned by celestial radiance. She floated down the steps silently, halting before him, her gaze meeting his with the weight of a dying supernova. Ethan offered a feeble wave. "Hey again, ready to dissect my very being." I find object of intense observational intrigue more apt, though I aspire to meet that lofty designation. Escorted by two beetle-like protocol drones, they departed the amphitheater. Leora guided them through serpentine corridors to a wall-less chamber. Only stars, indistinguishable as reality or illusion. At its heart, a constellation of platforms pirouetted, defying gravity like a mobile of levitating stones. "This is a mind-walk chamber," Leora explained, designed to cultivate advanced cognitive synchronization. "Finding tranquility in certain sounds proves elusive. Should I preemptively shed my sense of self, or simply allow it to unravel organically?" he quipped. "Perhaps it's beneficial," she replied. They ascended individual platforms. A gentle hum resonated, and Ethan felt a delicate prod at his consciousness, akin to luminous tendrils exploring his memories. The atmosphere subtly vibrated. Then her thoughts echoed within his mind. "Remain calm. This is standard procedure." "Elaborate on standard." "You might encounter fleeting memory echoes, sensory distortions, or a spontaneous urge to recite verse." Tuesday's my end of the line for this round. He sensed a tectonic shift within, a ghost of a chuckle, not his own, rippling through him. Her feelings brushed against his mind, an ephemeral caress with a serrated edge. A fleeting glimpse of her formative years assaulted his senses. Colossal, shimmering structures, a stern mentor critiquing her stance, and that relentless pursuit of flawlessness. He wasn't meant to witness that vulnerability, and she was acutely aware of the transgression. The connection severed abruptly, yanking him back to reality like a brutal whiplash. He faltered. Leora appeared collected, though unnervingly so. "My apologies," he blurted. "It wasn't intentional." "No, hold on," she interjected gently. "You didn't coerce anything." The room resonated with a palpable shared interest. A lengthy silence followed, broken when she surprisingly inquired, "And you? What reciprocal wisdom do you offer me, Ethan?" Ethan was taken aback. "You're genuinely serious? My directive includes observing your culture. You're free to choose any Earth custom." "Well," he stammered, desperately seeking something more dignified than dreadful Earth sitcoms. "How about handshakes?" She tilted her head, intrigued. "Contact rituals. Yes, symbolic, personal, and intriguingly risky in a delightful way." After a moment's pause, she offered her hand. Their palms met. Hers was surprisingly petite, incredibly minuscule, yet the contact resonated powerfully. He couldn't discern if it stemmed from mindwalk residue or an unknown source, but the touch vibrated not with electricity, but familiarity. Her fingers tarried longer than necessary. "You achieve so much with so extraordinarily little," she murmured. "The human narrative, encapsulated," he quipped. They exited silently, the air not uneasy, but suspended like an unfinished melody. Ethan felt a profound sense of transformation, a rebalancing, a question posed, though unanswered. Back in his room, Waffles welcomed him with a kazoo and goat bleat symphony before collapsing. Onto the bed, utterly dazed and buzzing. Waffles. What's the implication when an otherworldly girl grants you access to her mind, refrains from vaporizing you, and subsequently clasps your hand? Initiating consultation with 17 romance databases. Excellent. Cross-reference meticulously with the "don't screw this up" directive. Result. Inconclusive. Margin of error. Dangerously elevated. "Yeah," Ethan murmured, gazing at the ceiling with an enigmatic grin. "That resonates." Ethan then awoke, levitating approximately 2 inches above his mattress. "Waffles," he mumbled, still submerged in a half-dream state. "Are you tinkering with the gravity protocols again?" "I would never," came the disarmingly innocent response from his dorm AI. "However, you did experience a rather violent twitch-in. Your slumber inadvertently activated the emergency levitation system. You exclaimed, and I quote, 'Quit pilfering my noodles, you cosmic cephalopod.'" Ethan exhaled, pirouetted in mid-air, and gently floated back to the mattress. Why does my unconscious resemble a subpar culinary caper film? Shall I pen a screenplay? Perhaps inquire later, post-luncheon. When he roused himself, located trousers, abandoned the chair, now verdant with moss in protest, and lurched into the common area where Vela engaged in a passionate discourse with a levitating ocular orb. That emitted sporadic beeps and carried a subtle cinnamon scent. "Greetings, future chroniclers," he announced, blinking as Vela remained fixated on the eyeball. "Ethan, please enlighten our first contact liaison that glitter undeniably constitutes an acceptable offering during introductions." The eyeball pulsed with dissent. Interstellar Protocol 942 Delta strictly forbids particulate dissemination in formal diplomatic exchanges. Ethan raised a hand. All right. A, that's supremely geeky. And B, glitter is essentially space spores. Got it? Perhaps we're both validated, Vela chuckled, a sly grin playing on her lips. I'll bedazzle it with edible glitter next time. The eyeball emitted a horrified beep, rocketing away. Ethan followed its trajectory. Is this whole dimension subtly insane, or is it just my perception? Affirmative on both counts, Vela quipped. Indeed, their day commenced with a discourse on xenolinguistic blunders. Ethan meticulously documented every nuance after the professor elucidated how an errant inflection in the XRE tongue could morph "thank you" into "I crave your cousin's spleen." An eager student volunteered a demonstration, costing the class 5 precious minutes. Still reeling from the bizarre lunch, featuring a mood-altering protein cube, Ethan's unfortunately evoked mild anxiety and dashed hopes. They gathered for the integration simulation. Leora stood before a peculiar, luminous structure, a hybrid of beehive and cathedral. A curt nod was her greeting, her face inscrutable as usual. Today, she stated, you will join me within the Hall of Echoes. Is that as foreboding as it appears? Even more wondrous, I assure you. Imposing structure, radiating false security and potential mental disruption. Your sarcasm's sharpened, she observed. I've been honing it. They entered, the door sealing with a soft yet emotionally charged thud. The hall shimmered, the walls seemingly glass, constantly morphed, revealing fleeting thoughts and memories like fragmented dreams. Leora beckoned him forward. Deus, this is where we face projection strands, the echoes of our very being. Drawn in by an almost intimate closeness, unburdened and carefree. It's just me confronted by thoughts I usually suppress, like a nostalgic reunion. Gently, she touched the crystal interface, the room echoing with a soft violet glow. Ethan mirrored her motion, cautiously bracing himself for chaos or pain. But instead, he felt a gentle pull, as if a memory was being carefully extracted. Suddenly, holographic echoes emerged. My childhood dog, a lovable mutt with a uniquely loud bark, reappeared. Echoes his mom's cozy kitchen, warmly disheveled. The old corner store where the clerk short-changed him with a sly wink. Then abruptly, a deserted school corridor, lockers scarred, Ethan frozen at the end, fists tight, two figures dissolving in laughter. He cringed. Yeah, not a fan. Leora paused, then unexpectedly, her own memory surfaced beside his. A grand, imposing hall, with profound shadows and lofty expectations. A younger girl standing rigidly, silent as adults debated her future. Ethan glanced at her, but she avoided his gaze. Gaze. We can't curate the memories that surface, she murmured. No, he responded gently. We simply bury them, hoping they won't haunt us, until they resurface in some alien memory archive. A projection flickered. Ethan's 8th birthday bash. Leora observed as minuscule Ethan stumbled, sending cake soaring. The mirth surrounding the image seemed to congeal. Was this rite a festivity or a combat drill? Candidly, a bit of both. There was demonstrable frosting-related angst. She offered a faint smile. He faced her. Your turn. What secrets should I unearth? Stories untold, beyond textbooks. She paused, then reality warped, a musical resonance, complex and harmonious. Colossal trees materialized, Crystalline melodies resonated within their wood. Children frolicked among branches, their laughter echoing. Leora, as a child, twirled beneath a starlit sky, her senses tingling with pure joy. "It's breathtaking," Ethan murmured. "That was before my parents charted a course for importance." Silence filled the space. No further words were needed. The hall dissolved as they emerged, the atmosphere palpably lighter. Leora didn't utter a word until they arrived at the corridor. "You're quite unlike what I anticipated. Uniquely so. Unfavorable or favorable." "I'm still deliberating," she remarked, but her tone wasn't disparaging. Returning to the dorms, Waffles had initiated a fresh notification. "You've attained milestone, collaborative exposure, somewhat unnerving, yet unifying. Would you be inclined to memorialize it with festive confetti, yo? No glitter?" Ethan cautioned, the eyeballs still agitated, comprehended. Substituting environmentally friendly sparkles, the ceiling vent burst open and emitted a solitary, slow-falling sparkle. It delicately settled upon his head, stubbornly staying put. Bela strolled past, offering a thumbs up. "Impressive, human. You've unlocked a profoundly emotional connection. Welcome to Phase 2. Bizarre dreams and excruciatingly awkward eye contact." "Awkwardness is my default state," he quipped, a smile nonetheless gracing his lips. He didn't entirely grasp Leora, perhaps never would. Yet those shared instances within the resonant hall felt like the opening line of a collaborative narrative. Maybe it would pose a question, perhaps something far more extraordinary. He was already intensely anticipating the next chapter. "Are you completely certain this won't be fatal?" Ethan perched precariously on a hovering platform, gazing into a tempestuous expanse of sickly green clouds laced with sporadic lightning. Strikes, not conventional hues, but radiant magenta streaks that arced erratically like an overzealous abstract masterpiece. Leora regarded him serenely, her elongated ears flicking subtly in the wind. The data regarding student mortality in the gravity flux garden is rather promising. Promising as in minimal risk, or merely the tragically, 2 recorded incidents occurred in the last 5 cycles. It's not 0, Leora. That's undeniably too many. She advanced onto this platform, which shimmered faintly in response to her weight. If it's any consolation, both students were attempting blindfolded aerial dance while emotionally vulnerable, she offered. Ethan blinked. That sounds like an incredibly precise caveat. Is there an elective for it? Before he could respond, the platform ascended, carrying them through the Academy's eastern spire's open dome. The gravity flux garden, an expansive, interwoven display of radiant, living flora, suspended in defying configurations. Vines writhed in mesmerizing spirals, while blossoms inverted, emitting gentle hums. Miniature planets orbited in localized gravitational pockets, resembling ornamental fruit displays. This is like a screensaver someone pushed way too far, Ethan quipped. Lero, undeterred, approached a flower phasing through realities, touched a petal, and it recoiled with a delicate startle, akin to a feline facing an unexpected cucumber. I brought you here, she murmured. Not turning, you sought to witness something utterly novel. I was speaking figuratively. A poem, a treat, perhaps a cosmic meme. I possess those as well, she added, but foremost, this. They glided toward a braided root structure coiled like a levitating snail shell. Within resided a luminous orb, its surface swirling like ink in milk. It's called a memoir, Leora elucidated, grown from collective thoughts. Ethan approached warily. That sounds disturbingly intimate. It truly is, with most cultivated by familial groups, some by devoted duos. You mean partners? She inquired, casting a glance at him. That's one way to see it, he responded, attempting to maintain his composure. Right. No stress then. We won't be cultivating one, she interjected swiftly. Not at this moment. I didn't imply we should, he countered gently. You framed it as though you anticipated me suggesting we should. Was I exuding that impression? Intensely, she replied. They paused in tranquil silence, absorbing the soft resonance of the ethereal garden, as an entity evocative of a luminous butterfly fluttered by, disintegrating into radiant particles when Ethan emitted a sneeze. Apologies, he said, still sensitive to surreal beauty, I presume. Leora offered a subtle smile. You were going to impart some knowledge. Now it's your opportunity. He hesitated, glancing around as if terrestrial customs were concealed amongst the radiant flora. Have you ever encountered karaoke? Is that the peculiar custom where participants deliver imperfect vocalizations alongside pre-recorded musical compositions? A severe yet precise assessment, he conceded. I've perused information on the subject. Have you ever partaken? She regarded him as if he'd inquired whether she'd ever engaged in hand-to-hand combat with a cleaning apparatus. Very well, Ethan declared, with a dramatic eye roll. Prepare yourself. This is imminent. He activated the device, holographic projector from his satchel, regulation grade, yet modded with a rave protocol setting. One tap, and a tinny beat filled the garden. Leora winced. Is this audio terrorism? This is Wake Me Up Before You Go-Go. You'll adore it. Ethan inexplicably started belting it out. He sang with passion, verve, and just the right dash of self-awareness to be charming, not grating. His voice wavered, his foot tapped off beat, but he poured his soul into every ridiculous syllable. Leora just stared, transfixed, was observing an age-old rite of frenzy, mirroring her own state. The music ceased, leaving the garden profoundly still. Select vines receded, and the memory remained introspective. Ethan inquired, his breath quicker than he preferred. Leah blinked. That was either exceptionally bold or a hidden plea. Why not both? She mused, shockingly commencing a low, haunting melody, rhythmically elusive, yet deeply resonant. The garden bloomed anew, flowers illuminated, radiant tendrils unfurled, releasing a score of miniature spheres that ascended like inquisitive fireflies. Ethan was captivated. Okay, you win. That was absolutely breathtaking. What was that? A melody from my homeland, she responded, used to soothe newborns or pacify high-strung diplomats. Good to know those needs converge, and they hovered, swaying softly as the platform rotated gently, granting a panoramic vista of the garden, shimmering azure and violet hues, fantastical flora, and the profound sensation of being enveloped not just by life, but by history. I'm still struggling to grasp how this sanctuary even exists. Ethan murmured, Your world, your people. It's almost as if everything's meticulously crafted to make humans feel like awkward infants. You're not awkward, she countered, just unfiltered. You react spontaneously, speak without calculation, and experience emotions intensely and vividly. It's undeniably challenging, but sometimes, she paused, sometimes it's liberating. He offered a sidelong glance. That was almost a genuine compliment. Don't get accustomed to it. As they progressed downwards, the memoir emitted a gentle, pulsating glow. They didn't acknowledge it, not at that moment. Back at the dorms, Waffles unveiled novel memory log revealing emotional density, moderately elevated compatibility index surging. Enough, Ethan grumbled, tossing off his shoes, care for an evening introspection. Trigger, unfortunate tonight's trigger. What captivated you today? Ethan gazed upward, recalling the garden, the cadence of her voice, the fleeting hint of something, perhaps admiration, or mere acceptance veiled in enigma. He replied to the ceiling, virtually everything Ethan had assimilated. Copious knowledge since joining the Interstellar Academy. Yet today, he discovered that extraterrestrial caffeine was a game best enjoyed responsibly. He'd already suffered a monumental defeat. His hands buzzed erratically, like failing engines, and his ears were numb. "Okay, Vela," he stammered, eyes wide and voice too high. "Exactly what's in that concoction?" "Chill," Vela replied, floating casually upside down. "Just Croiny root extract, enhanced enzyme syrup, and a gentle neurostimulant from a thinking cactus. That might be illegal in 6 systems, but not ours. Yet." Ethan clutched the table, desperately trying to recall the mechanics of breathing, questioning if his tongue was now narrating his thoughts. Vela's grin widened at the optimal dosage. Waffles, ever watchful, projected a crucial health advisory, cautioning that his vitals were nearing dangerous levels. Ethan collapsed, declaring a ban on mystery drinks before xenopsychology. Leora, having silently entered, arched an eyebrow, observing, "You seem impaired." "Accurate," Ethan rasped as she approached, studied his fidgeting fingers before activating her wristcom, deploying a neural calibration field. A subtle wave permeated the chamber. Ethan released a slow sigh, resembling a balloon gradually losing air. His tension dissipated. His mind stilled sufficiently for him to articulate a concise sentence. "Thanks," he managed, his voice regaining its usual tone. "That was bizarre. You ingested a concoction formulated for Gilvani's advanced metabolic experiments." Vela described it to me as akin to tea. Her statement wasn't false, Leora clarified, merely devoid of broader context. Ethan cast a scornful glance at Vela. She simply shrugged, nonchalantly consuming a luminescent fruit. As it dissipated, a delightful chime resonated. They proceeded to their class, held that day within the Neural Mirage Theater, an amphitheater meticulously crafted to replicate psychological environments from various species. Stepping inside felt like entering a dream conceived by a committee with drastically divergent artistic visions. Professor Hrill, a hovering crystalline being, awaited. Resembling an accordion, it welcomed them with enchanting chimes. Today's focus: emotional resonance through multifaceted lensing. "Ready to broadcast?" Leora inquired, already at Ethan's side as they paired up. He nodded. "You won't witness anything mortifying, right? After all, I've already serenaded you. Shake me awake before you vanish. The pretense is over." The simulation commenced, the chamber radiated, and instantly Ethan was immersed in a warped recollection, altered by the extraterrestrial nexus. He found himself in his boyhood bedroom, yet the walls throbbed with sentient tendrils of reminiscence, and his vintage comic book hero emblems flickered, murmuring observations on his youthful turmoil. Leora observed beside him, mute, as a juvenile Ethan quarreled with his father regarding departing Earth. The memory wavered, his diction acerbic, his father's visage constricted with apprehension, concealing his discontent. "It extended beyond academics," Ethan murmured. He perceived it as an escape, "Were you fleeing?" Lior inquired. I doubted it, but now I'm uncertain. The scene transitioned. They occupied Leora's memory, perched impossibly high in a treetop metropolis. She, no older than 10, gazed over luminescent forests as hushed, clipped arguments unfolded behind her. "They resisted my arrival," she uttered, "not from concern for my safety, but apprehension of my potential transformation." Ethan gazed at her, but her eyes remained fixed on the horizon. "Do you understand?" She offered no response. The memory dissipated like mist back in the theater. The professor commented with a satisfied hum. "Outstanding boundary fusion. Emotional alignment at 73%. Vela's voice boomed from the rear. "I just had to knock my inner doubt flat. Top that, humans." Ethan massaged his temples. "Do I at least earn some recognition for a touch of existential angst?" Waffles' voice crackled in his earpiece. "I've appended a digital badge to your record. I faced my demons, and all I got was this therapeutic clash." Post-class, Ethan and Leora traversed the winding corridor stores in quiet contemplation, their footsteps reverberating. Dimly, the Academy's celestial dome mirrored stars yet unlisted in human registries. "Forgive me for revealing that recollection," he confessed softly. "It surfaced unbidden. Such is the essence of the Mirage fields. They aren't deceitful, but neither are they consistently gentle. I'm beginning to comprehend. This realm, your people, everything here. It's less about rigid guidelines and more about deeply grasping the architecture of another's psyche. That is one objective." He paused, ceasing his stride. "And the other? To master the art of confronting, not fleeing from, your inner self." For a time, they remained still, observing a small cohort of learners in practice. Synchronized telekinesis afar. One student unintentionally propelled a bench skyward. Cheers erupted, then a quick apology. Ethan laughed. "This institution, founded upon interstellar diplomacy and profound mental connections, is strangely endearing." Lior inquired, "Do you favor interstellar conflict? It hinges on cafeteria quality, statistically subpar. Now I desire war." She beamed, genuinely catching him off guard, like witnessing a glacier waltz later. That evening, secluded in his chamber, Ethan reclined upon his bed, his gaze tracing the celestial tapestry cast upon the ceiling. Waffles, now in reflective mode, primarily emitted encouraging affirmations in binary code. His thoughts drifted to his father, to their final dispute, to the words the old man had uttered. "Escaping to aliens isn't the solution, Ethan. We can't mend the Earth's fractures by seeking refuge amongst the stars." Here he stood, discovering how to truly feel before a non-human, striving not to flee. Perhaps a valuable lesson resided here, perhaps not, but one truth resonated. Tomorrow, he'd scrutinize Vela's offerings with a full ingredient analysis and a solid legal waiver. Ethan's inaugural planetary atmosphere simulator experience unveiled its unappealing truth, akin to a pressurized soup can engineered for maximum discomfort. The simulated sky above showcased a trio of suns engaged in a mesmerizing synchronized figure-8 dance, visually arresting, yet profoundly unnerving. Perturbing to those preferring steadfast, benign celestial entities, LRA tweaked her wrist-mounted data module, appearing utterly composed. Naturally, her people were acclimated to gravitational lurches, thermal variations, and skies morphing with each blink. Conversely, Ethan perspired in previously undiscovered locations. Recap why this is indispensable, he mumbled, surreptitiously wiping his brow. To access the orbital diplomatic station circling Junar Prime, she stated serenely, you must first immerse yourself in the ambassador species' homeworld environment. Their physical discomfort is viewed as a raw form of honesty, profoundly shaping their diplomatic approach. Do they perhaps exchange blows as greetings? Ah, no. That's the Brenturi, and only on Wednesdays, mind you. A robotic drone zipped past, releasing a delicate mist, carrying notes of toasted coconut and a palpable sense of melancholy. Ethan cleared his throat. So I gather air conditioning isn't exactly en vogue here? Altering the native climate during a simulation would be perceived as discourteous. The emphasis is on authentic immersion, not mere comfort. Well, I'm drenched in my own perspiration. A resonant chime echoed from the simulator's central spire. Trainees assembled, clutching glowing orbs. Ethan anxiously eyed his own, questioning. Recap the function? It enables projection of a nuanced, non-verbal diplomatic communication via mnemonic tonal conversion. Too verbose. It deciphers my emotions. It interprets your intent, filtered through your emotional prism, transforming it into a symbolic form perceptible to the Junari embassy. Focus on virtuous thoughts. Lady, barely 17, fresh out of alien puberty orientation, my thoughts have been delightfully impure ever since I grasped the notion of sentient embraces. Leora didn't laugh, but her ears gave the slightest twitch. He was attuned to the nuances now. The exercise commenced. Students advanced, activating spheres that unfurled into bizarre, ethereal designs. Musical echoes, fractal ice. Leora's creation, a breathtaking, intricate helix veiled in luminous petals, softly aglow. Then Ethan's moment arrived, clutching his sphere. Sphere endeavored to cultivate a serene, reverent mindset, but instantly became self-conscious about his perspiration-soaked attire. The orb throbbed, emitting a startled, "Oh no!" It intensified, radiating brilliance before violently transforming into a gargantuan, comical duck. The duck possessed blazing eyebrows and revolved languidly while emitting a drawn-out honking sound. The simulator fell mute. Even the trio of suns appeared bewildered. Leora scrutinized him. That's undeniably symbolic. Enlighten me. Does it possess any significance within your cultural context? And she mused. Only if your express aim is to initiate light-hearted conflict concerning someone's self-esteem. That's precisely what I don't aspire to. The instructor, seemingly sculpted from mirrored triangles, glided over, offering a profound nod of approval. Unexpected, disruptive, yet deeply honest and utterly acceptable, Ethan breathed. Totally nailed it. They exited the simulator an hour later, his shirt a biohazard zone, his dignity battered but resilient. Leora walked beside him, lost in contemplation. Do you ever feel fundamentally unsuited for this? He questioned. Like everyone else received a comprehensive manual, and you're just jury-rigging your way through with sarcasm and sheer willpower. I frequently perceive that I'm deciphering a world seemingly not crafted for my existence, she stated. Yet I firmly believe it doesn't imply our exclusion from it. He paused. Now that's strangely reassuring. I've been honing empathy, using metaphors. Keep the inspiration flowing. You're practically one dazzling holographic cat poster away from achieving peak motivational speaker status. At that moment, she offered a slight smile, subtle but genuine. Subsequently, at the mess hall, Vela unexpectedly appeared beside them, balancing a tray loaded with shimmering gelatinous cubes. "I heard whispers of the flaming duck incident," she announced, munching on something. That evoked a squelching sound, a novel philosophical interpretation, groundbreaking expressive power. "Please tell me you're pulling my leg." "Nope, you're blowing up the internal comms feed." Someone even remixed the honk. Waffles, from Ethan's wrist, interjected. "Shall I procure the meme compilation for offline consumption?" Ethan lamented. "Fine, let's embrace total notoriety." Leora reached out, gently patting his hand. "You risked humiliation in an environment obsessed with image. That requires genuine audacity. I'm uncertain if that's praise or a devastating critique." A cordial ribbing and genuine sentiment intertwined as they found themselves amidst pupils hailing from nearly every corner of the explored cosmos, consuming cuisine that occasionally offered an unnerving wink in return. It dawned on Ethan that he was no longer merely enduring this adventure. He was evolving, discovering how to genuinely thrive within it, and perhaps, just perhaps, how to make a meaningful impact upon it. Ethan was unaccustomed to silence possessing such gravity. Yet here, within the hallowed halls of symphonic thought, it descended upon him like a velvety, ponderous weight. The chamber expanded limitlessly, defying all architectural norms ever conceived on Earth, bending at unfathomable perspectives, colors morphing based on the prevailing mindset, akin to being enveloped in a sentient mood ring, occasionally echoing your inner thoughts in melancholic melodies. "Why the silence?" Ethan murmured, his voice reverberating as if he'd yelled in a vast glass cathedral of hushed disapproval. "Because we're on the verge of enacting," Leora stated, her voice serenely resolute. "A performance." Ethan stared, bewildered. "I thought..." This was a lecture, a captivating performative experience. One doesn't just outline thought synthesis, one embodies it. I barely recall my breakfast, yet I'm to morph into a living philosophical proof? A student, resembling a tri-pedal wind chime, turned, emitting a supportive, perhaps playfully sarcastic, resonance. Ethan adjusted his tunic, already lamenting not feigning space sickness. Professor Frill materialized, radiating anticipation and barely restrained academic joy. Today's assignment: forge a potent synergy of reason and compassion, employing distinct cognitive attunement. Premium recognition for artfully resolved emotional friction. Ethan scanned, seeking concealed surveillance. This is either academia or a meticulously crafted cult. Frequently, it's both, Vela declared from the rear, inexplicably balancing neural prisms upon her head. The professor beckoned, and shimmering spheres materialized before each student. Ethan's emitted a gentle, hesitant amber glow, mirroring his uncertainty, pondering the precise predicament it had stumbled into. "Direct your consciousness," Lura elucidated softly, molding her sphere until it throbbed with a deliberate, hypnotic rhythm. "Concentrate on an intrinsic reality, irrespective of its magnitude. Allow it to coalesce into form." Ethan gazed intently at his amorphous sphere. "Okay, here's my honest reality. I'm still utterly clueless about half the cuisine here, and last week I nearly ingested a musical ensemble." The sphere trembled, then morphed, remarkably manifesting a miniature, levitating depiction of him attempting a dialogue with a gelatinous orb, serenading in a quartet. Leora's eyes widened. "Is profoundly expressive. I'd dub it C minor musings now. Let's see its evolution. What wisdom did that moment impart? If nourishment vocalizes, abstain from devouring." She cocked her head, visibly gauging whether he was utterly incorrigible or a philosophical savant incognito. Ethan's vision shifted, portraying him extending a spoon to the being, settling alongside it, and seamlessly harmonizing with the melody. Regardless of the severity, the orb throbbed, its resonance deepened, and a gentle harmonic echoed throughout the chamber. "Superior," Leora affirmed, nodding. "It's not about shunning the novel, but embracing it, even clumsily, if needed. That's essentially my guiding principle." Around them, others sculpted exquisitely chaotic spheres, showcasing abstract anxieties, aspirations, or universal allegories. One student's sphere manifested a complete planetary biosphere founded on the notion of individual remorse. Another transmuted culpability into an icy, shadowy symphony. Unsurprisingly, Velka's depicted herself holding hands with 10 alternate versions, each wearing a distinct hat and laughing uproariously. Velka's mind is terrifying. "Me," Ethan breathed. "Count me in." Laura breathed softly as their act finished. The professor hummed a satisfied tone, waving them off with his intricate limbs. "Corridor meetup," Ethan exhaled, seemingly relieved. "All right, quite impressive," Leora commented, hands clasped. "Superior to most novices." "My mind was racing," Ethan confessed. "Indeed, a high compliment in some circles," she replied. They strolled, the academy windows reflecting a vortex, celestial nebula far beyond human-made air, a mesmerizing aurora of stellar genesis and cosmic debris. A distant transport ship glided by, scattering shimmering ionized particles like ethereal breadcrumbs. Ethan paused. "Ever ponder how radically life would differ had you never ventured here?" "Constantly," Leora retorted, "particularly amidst scorching foul or pupils weeping into logic processors. I'm beginning to perceive a personal affront." "You're certainly not the only one feeling that way." They sat by a spiral viewport, perfect for pondering or dramatic reflection. Ethan, by the latter, admitted, "I used to think I came here to escape, but maybe I came to pursue something. Though what, I'm unsure. Perhaps understanding, a sense of belonging, or just someone who doesn't see me as the strangest being present." Leora's expression softened. "You're definitely not the strangest anymore. Believe me." Vela popped up, munching on a fizzing snack. "Hey, who's up for—" to infiltrate the observatory dome for plasma storm viewing, a thrillingly illicit and dangerously volatile act. Ethan arched an eyebrow. "Define mildly illegal." "It triggers only 2 alarm types," she shrugged. "I'm in," he blurted, impulsively. Leora sighed. "This is thoroughly inadvisable." "Precisely! A prime bonding experience," Vela exclaimed, gliding down the hall as they plunged into another questionable escapade. A grin inexplicably spread across Ethan's face. The academy remained a baffling enigma, the teachings peculiar, the students even more so, and a significant portion of the regulations appeared utterly nonsensical. Conceived by prankish philosophers, each advancement felt less like evasion and more like a deliberate choice, suggesting his evolution into someone capable of belonging anywhere, even among aliens with elongated ears and grander expectations. Nighttime in the academy possessed a unique tranquility, where every flickering light seemed to hold secrets. Ethan, alone in the observation garden, feigned indifference while awaiting something, the stars above feeling unreal. They pierced through atmospheric shields and crafted lenses, yet retained an immense, untouchable aura. He preferred them distant enough to intrigue, close enough to revere. Like most here, the past weeks dissolved into a whirlwind of pandemonium, profound unveilings, and an interspecies culinary clash culminating in a council-wide mea culpa and a revised Academy bylaw. Absolutely no spaghetti mimics. Ethan's group capped off the cultural diplomacy course by dramatizing. The captivating evolutionary saga of 3 distinct species unfolds through interpretive dance and innovative sound cubes. He embodied a semi-sentient moss patch, learning to embrace affection. A surprising triumph. Tomorrow marks the end. Graduation nears. Soft footsteps preceded her words. Leora, ever serene, yet always present. "You should be resting," she murmured, halting beside him, her gaze fixed on the artificial constellations, ever calculating. "I attempted to," he replied. "My mind relentlessly processed details, fretting about your valedictory address. That's the simple part. I merely recite something clumsy and stumbled off stage. Quintessential human." Her lips hinted at a smile, closest she'd been to actual laughter, unless Vela unleashed utter pandemonium. Leora's gaze met his, her elongated ears gleaming in the faux moonlight. "Ethan, you performed commendably." Ethan questioned, "Did I? I mean, let's be honest. I ignited an emotional firestorm during symphonic synthesis, faced expulsion for probing a sentient locker's feelings, and may have triggered an earth cheese embargo in the cafeteria. But you also resolved The protracted Travari Glint standoff dissolved somewhat whimsically when I likened their quarrel to a children's tale about sharing muffins, albeit muffins armed with laser cannons. "Unorthodox, but effective," she conceded. I quipped, "My forte, being marginally incorrect until, by sheer chance, I stumble upon the truth." "You've evolved," she murmured, her tone gentler. Ethan met her gaze, truly saw her, and discovered the fear of embracing the present had vanished. "Indeed," he replied, "as have you. You smile more. You even let Vela braid your hair. Seeing your curls emerge, haven't you embraced contractions? Oh yes, you just did." She paused, a subtle frown forming. A deliberate linguistic play, she mused. They shared a quietude, not oppressive but knowing, where words weren't burdened. "I'm returning to Earth briefly," he finally revealed. Her head canted, a telltale sign of deep thought. "My family longs for me, and with newfound wisdom, perhaps I can bridge the gap, illustrate my journey. Let's escape to the cosmos. Sheer ennui grips me," he declared. She gave a deliberate nod. "You'll be back." It wasn't a query, but a certainty. He grinned. "You'd suffer my absence profoundly." "I'd barely register you were gone," she retorted. "It's this sentimental drivel. People could misconstrue our acquaintanceship." "I'd vehemently disavow any connection," he scoffed. They lingered until the academy chimes tolled midnight, heralding the conclusion of structured study and the commencement of uncharted adventures. Leora retrieved a diminutive contraption from her pocket, a compressed cube the dimensions of a matchbox. "What's the purpose of this?" he inquired. "A vacant recording device. Encapsulates your most cherished memories, meticulously assembled and thoughtfully arranged. You've been observing me, archiving data for scholarly inquiry, Leora. You're undoubtedly the most endearing admirer I've encountered. I'm preserving it." She subtly rolled her eyes, pivoting towards the exit as he trailed behind. Graduation was a hazy recollection. Addresses were delivered, Gowns were donned. Vela deployed a drone formation displaying class of intergalactic whatever in shimmering script before malfunctioning and rendering clam of intergalactic weather, which Ethan admittedly found preferable. He exchanged greetings with faculty and received embraces from at least 3 tentacled entities, and received a mysterious scroll, its origins unknown, possibly inscribed in an indecipherable tongue. Nobody dared reveal its authenticity, leaving him to embrace its dual nature, real and symbolic. As the simulated sunset painted the sky in fiery hues, he stood by the launch pad, his solitary bag concealing a repurposed terrarium from a defunct botanical endeavor. Witnessing the shuttle's ignition, Vela ambushed him with an intense, borderline suffocating embrace, yelling, "Don't you dare die!" or, "I'll aim to make it outrageously funny," he gasped. Leora, now calmer and less excitable, stood near him, her fingers lightly grazing his. He remained still, unwilling to disrupt the contact. "I've slipped a collection of Earth idioms, translated for interstellar talks, into your bag," she mentioned. "Let me venture a guess. You've excised all the bovine references. They were perplexing and subtly menacing." "I'll be back," he stated, his tone turning resolute. He watched as the shuttle doors sealed shut. The engines began to thrum. He settled into his seat, activating the holocube in his hand, watching as his memories flickered to life. His inaugural day, his first. Catastrophe, the sheer dismay etched on Leora's visage upon him, declaring to the Yunari ambassador that their crown resembled a ludicrous fruit basket, which, in actuality, proved a compliment. He smirked. The cosmos unfurled again, celestial bodies like glittering trails. Yet this time, he wasn't adrift. He journeyed homeward, not from lacking belonging here, but because he'd ultimately grasped belonging anywhere. If Ethan's journey sparked something in you, like, share, and comment your favorite alien moment from this story.